Oh my gosh.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living here in St. Louis,
Mississippi. Oh, Missouri.
Missouri. Missouri. So, my name is Reverend Mary Jean DeRusha, and I am the co minister with my husband, Reverend Larry DeRusha. Hi, Larry. Larry, say hi. You did put your little thing back on. Yes, you did. Okay.
Careful.
I'm just here to remind you. I'm reminding. Who is that baby? Oh.
Uh,
Oh my gosh.
So cute.
He is so cute. He is just. If you want to know the innocence you were as a child, come and look at that baby, because that's what you were like. And here at the Center for Spiritual Living, we are here to remind you that life is divine and that spark within you that is innocent and love and peace is still burning brightly. And kind of like what we do here at the Center for Spiritual Living as a group, a spiritual community, is to remind each other life is good and focus on what it is we want to see. And what you want to see, you'll begin seeing. And what you do see, you won't see. So I want to welcome you. Is there anybody here for the first time? Would you raise your hand? Hi, let's welcome you. And
Yay.
our ushers have a packet for you. You can take it into the bookstore and sign your name,
here.
and they give you a thumb drive with some talks on it or something. But I'm glad you're here today. And there's a few announcements.
Okay, I'm going to have a seat.
You're going to have a seat?
Yeah.
Well,
Take this off. It's hot.
Maddie, are you going to come up and talk about this? Today? Okay, never mind. Well, wait. Today is the final day for the TJ Pizza fundraiser. And Maddie, come on up and hold it. She's in charge of this. Maddie came up with this TJ Pizza fundraiser because she bought like 10 pizzas to help somebody. And then I bought 10 pizzas to help her. And then 6 people bought 10 pizzas. Do we have like 3 pizzas?
Yeah, just about.
So we need 100.
We will today.
And then we'll send it in tomorrow with all the money we've collected. And within like 10 days, they will be delivering it here. And then you'll either come pick it up or we'll get someone to deliver it to you. But I want to thank Maddie for taking this project on herself. Yes. So she's going to put it in the lobby. So on your way out, stop and it's not just pizza. Well, it's St. Louis style gourmet, thick crust pizza, frozen desserts, and cookies. Break and bake cookies. So, I mean, if you don't like pizza, there's other things that are just as bad for your body. No, really, and the pizzas are good. They gave us some to make, and we all got to test them. So thank you again, Maddie, and she'll be at the table in the lobby. Thanks. We're having Costume Day next Sunday, October 30th. Wear your Halloween disguise and participate in the best costume contest after service. We're going to have cider and goodies in the Scott Hall. And instead of just giving a prize for the best, I'm giving a prize to everybody. So everybody, this is kind of Larry and I are sponsoring this. Larry didn't know it. Oh, no. I can always tell. I forgot to tell you. And, yes, we are. So we have prizes for everybody that comes in a costume. We'll go into Scott Hall afterwards. That's next Sunday. And before you know it, Thanksgiving dinner will be here. We want to have you over for dinner. Please sign up in the lobby to help out if you want to be part of the feast. Put your name, how many people, go home and call everybody you know that is going to be alone on Thanksgiving and invite them over here. Bring a dish. You can write down what side dish. And Tony Wardell is sponsoring the turkeys. And so we have to have you sign up so we know how many turkeys to buy. That's the only thing that we really need you to do early. And Brenda and Patrice and Lisa are the hostesses that day. will help. So anyway, thank you for doing that, and thank you everybody. And Tracy, you were going to come up here and ask people, tell people about it, but since I already did. Oh, you were going to tell them? Oh. Yeah.
We got our people mixed up. That's okay. So we definitely need people to help clean up. But there's going to be a lot of great food and great things happening that day. And Thanksgiving can be a sad time. I know for me, I would watch the Macy Day Parade and just cry and miss my family because they're all back east or around the country. So now this is our family, right? We can all come and be together. And, you know, I brought the word harvest time today because this time of harvest is a time of abundance and a time of gratitude. And I know we're all grateful for each other here, but I want to specifically mention a few people, Mary Jean at the top of the list and Lisa as well, that have supported this program called Dream Uplifters, which is people bringing their old broken jewelry, can also be watches or buttons or keys, and have brought them into me over the last few years, and I've made pieces like that and other pieces. And then I support a scholarship fund for women at the St. Charles Community College, as well as one girl in West Africa, in Ghana. And I wanted to thank, and I hope I didn't forget anybody, I tried from memory to list the Dream Uplifters that have done this, and Kathy Cunningham, Mary Jean, Lisa Dunkel, Diane Grayson, Bo McGuire, Rebecca Now, Maria O'Rourke, Linda Power, Carol Scott, Andrea Tickner, Nancy Tickner, and is there anyone else I didn't mention that donated jewelry? So, okay, and Joni also, and I'll make sure she gets on that list. And I'm going to frame this list. Tom and his partner, Cindy, and I'm sorry about that too. Please come Thanksgiving, and we want to get Jean Gray and Lynn Gray here or come back to services, and they need a lightweight wheelchair for Jean. They will come back if we can find them a lightweight wheelchair. So I'm just putting that out into the universe. So maybe someone has one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think actually Medicare will help with that. Thank you very much again. We don't want anyone to be alone on Thanksgiving. If you have nowhere to go, you do now. We're also collecting canned goods and box goods for Loaves and Fishes. There are a lot of people during this time of the year that go hungry, and we are beginning it already. There's people bringing in food, but we thought it might be fun to do a little contest. And when you go shopping, find products that begin with the letter of your first name or even last name. Like, for instance, I might bring mustard, macaroni, Miracle Whip, and mixed vegetables. But actually, I brought a lot more than that today. The collection bucket is under the coat rack. You know, you might even go in your cabinet as long as it's not expired and you haven't used it. Sometimes you make purchases and you go, oh, I have a recipe for that. Well, I do. And then I can't find the recipe and I have that product. So Loaves and Fishes will figure out the recipe. So bring in canned goods starting next week. Also, Slaying Dragons will perform in Scott Hall November 18th, 19th, and 20th. They need a volunteer to run lights and sound. It's real simple, and you get to see the show for free and get a free meal too. Tom Moore, right there where you stand up, if you can volunteer and help out Slaying Dragons. Their purpose is to teach people about mental illness and educate people on mental illness. Is that right? To remove the stigma around mental illness. Yeah, great. Thank you, Tom. And is there anybody that knows right off that they would like to do lights and sound for that? Oh, okay. I would do it, but I'm going to be in Egypt. So, okay. And now we have Mike Morrissey, who is coming up to share a couple things with us. Let's give Mike a hand.
Well, good morning. I guess you know my name is Mike. Tomorrow is the start of Diwali, the Hindu Festival of Lights, celebrated by approximately 8 million people around the world, primarily Hindus and Sikhs and Jainis. It symbolizes the spiritual victory of good over evil, light over darkness, and knowledge over ignorance. So I was going to bring in my demonstration, but I decided better of it because a lot of it's luminarias, which is a paper sack with sand at the bottom with a candle in it. Probably not a good idea to take a chance on burning down the sanctuary. So I said, no, let's not do that. But anyway, I would encourage you to research it, if nothing else, and marvel at the beauty of all the lights. It's a marvelous celebration. And for those of you who follow Mary Jean's recommendation to go take a closer look at Martin, his name means big spirit and little body. And if you look carefully, you'll see these still trailing angel dust. So also, for those of you who like fellowship by breaking bread together, in Scott Hall, I brought sourdough bread, butter, and my homemade salsa. There's going to be 2 dishes. I want to warn you, the first dish is normal. The second dish is called Abby, for A-B, normal. Abby, normal. All right, it's a little piquant, so it's still, palatable, but watch out for it. And if you need something to wash down your bread and salsa, besides water, I also brought a bottle of Pinot Grigio and a Soso Chianti. So enjoy.
And Larry brought some clam chowder, so for the leadership council's having a meeting afterwards, but he doubled the recipe. So if you like clam chowder, join us in Scott Hall after the celebration. And do you know, Mike, that next year that's going to be Diwali's going to be a countrywide holy day for everyone? Yes, they passed that law, and it will start next year. Yes, yeah. Well, it's going to be one day. It'll just be one day. But anyway, that's a little bit more eclectic. Our country is coming. I really love that. I want to now bring up the thought for the day person. No, the opening prayer person. Who's the prayer person? Okay, and then the thought for the day person. Here is Marcia Walton.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good. You ready to pray? Let's do that. Would somebody get the lights for me, please? Thank you. I just invite you to settle into your seat. Feel it supporting you. I invite you to close your eyes. And we'll pray. When we pray, we just unite ourselves with the power and presence of Spirit. So let's do that right now. Let go of everything else. And just recognize that you are sitting in the middle of all that is. It is all around you. It is in you. It is flowing through you. Every molecule of air you breathe is full of it. As Michael Beckwith says, there is nowhere God is not. So let's just spend a few moments feeling it. How does it feel to be in the presence of God? The power, the beauty, the harmony, the peace, the joy, and most of all, the love. And not only is that all around you, that is in you. That is who you are. And as we pray, my declaration today is simply that you stay in this space, that we all stay in this space, recognizing the truth of who we are, knowing that we are the divine. In action, we are the hands and feet, the mouths, the eyes, the ears of God, expressing uniquely in each and every one of us all of those qualities I mentioned previously. So be the peace, be the harmony, be the joy, and most of all, be the love. And knowing that this is the truth for each and every one of us, I just give thanks for it. Knowing that it is showing up brightly as shining stars in each and every one of us. So I release my word into the law of mind, knowing that as I do so, it's already done. It's perfect, it's whole, it's complete. So I just let it be. And as we say together, and so it is. Namaste. And I am available for prayer after service if you'd like to come up to the prayer screen.
And now we have the thought for the day. It's by Dr. Ernest Holmes. It's actually in the beginning of his book that we sometimes refer to as the Science of Mind textbook. Religious science is what he called it in the 1920s. Religious science is the synthesis of the laws of science, opinions of philosophy, and revelations of religion applied to human needs and the aspirations of man. So that's what this philosophy, when Dr. Ernest Holmes put it together in like 1920 something, that's what he was doing. He was synthesizing science, philosophy, and religion. And you'll hear that when you read the books by him, and you'll hear it when you come on Sunday and hear the talks. That's our purpose, is to continuously synthesize it so that you can live it. We want to make it easy for you. Thank you. And now we have some music. Lee Ann Matthew, this is the first time she's been here on a Sunday morning. She did play at the Ukraine Festival. And let's welcome her here and thank her for being here. Leanne, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Hi, my name is Leanne. I'm just so grateful to be here this morning and a little nervous, I'll admit. You know, I've been coming here sort of intermittently for the last year or so. And back in the 90s, I lived in California. And a friend of mine brought me to a CSL out there. And I went a few times, and I absolutely loved it. And my career in the theater took me on the road for a long time, and I landed here. And I couldn't remember it was called CSL. I couldn't remember Ernest Holmes. I couldn't remember Science of Mind. I did remember religious science, though. And I always kept it with me. And when my good friends Chris and Cora invited me to come here and join them here, I thought, oh, I've always wanted to come. And when I walked in, I knew I had found it again. I knew I had found it again. So thank you. This song is, I think, kind of appropriate to that feeling I had, that warmth, that welcome that CSL has always offered. Feel free to sing along when you kind of figure out the refrain. Well, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home. If I had one wish, I wish I could go back to my old neighborhood where the good folks, they all love you as their own. Then I'd go over to my neighbor's house, knock on the door, and they'd all sing out, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home. I'd sing their praises long and loud, 'cause they're all my folks and I'm mighty proud of the little old town back home where I was born. I wish that I could hear them say in the good old-fashioned friendly way, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home. Now they don't lock their doors at night, 'cause they all know they're a-doing right, and the good Lord's bound to have them for his own. If I go back to hear them pray in the little pine church, they'd always say, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home. If I was a child of only 3, I say my prayers on my mother's knee, and I knew right then from God I'd never roam. When I hear the summons on the judgment day, I hope I can hear my Savior say, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home. Well, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home.
Morning. Here we are again. Ooh, that sounds good. Diwali. When you go to Delhi, and that's the celebration, it's like Beijing in smog. Because they set off so many different kinds of fireworks, and it's amazing. So the planes either can't land, or they have to be on instruments coming in because you cannot even see the runway when you're touching down. That's how much smoke and debris there is in the air. So, and Diwali is probably celebrated by more on the order of about 1 billion people all over the world. But a lot of them, we were in India a few years back, and the whole country is engulfed in it. It's almost like Christmas, filled with light. So Science of Mind, the reason I thought of Science of Mind is because I'm in the process of trying to make my back straighter than it's been in a while because we're moving. And we're going from a 4,800 square foot home to 1,000 square feet. And the door is smaller. So picking things up and going, oh, I'll just move that one from here to here, and at the end of the day, it's like, what just happened to my back? So I'm doing Science of Mind treatment, and it's the reason why I can stand up here. And also the reason is because with these cowboy boots I'm wearing, they keep my back very straight. So we're talking about Science of Mind today. The reason is because I picked up this morning about 5 o'clock, I wanted some quotes. And I picked up Ernest Holmes, some of his writings, and that was one of them. And I thought, I wonder what the history of that, can you put that thought for the day back up again? I wonder what the history of this particular statement is. Turns out that the governor of California in the 1950s was a religious scientist. And on the board of education for the state of California was a person named Mabel Kinney, and she was head of education at the Religious Science Institute in Los Angeles. Those two had gotten together and said, we need to get more information out about what religious science is. Can Ernest come up with 25 words or less to explain it? So Ernest kind of went around in his mind, and he called together what he called his Tuesday invitation-only meetings. And people would fly in from all over the world if they were invited to be at Ernest's meeting on Tuesday night. And so he called this group together, and it was always random. He would just pick different people and send them an invitation. He said, here's what we need to do. We need to come up with something that defines science of mind, religious science. And that's where this statement came from. And he said the reason is because we take science and philosophy and we take revelations of religion and bring it together in something that we can use to make our lives better. So he talks about the science of the time. Now this is the science that he was referring to back in his day was traditional materialistic science. And yet he was well versed in quantum physics, surprisingly, because guess who was one of the attendants to one of his Tuesday night meetings? Einstein. And so he learned more and more, and there were a number of other quantum physicists that were part of his Tuesday night program. The head of physics at Caltech would come to his invites, and they would talk about the science of the time and how does that science apply to everyday human beings. And he would say, so philosophy is the opinion. Now he was big on saying it's an opinion. It's not science and it's not fact necessarily. It's the opinion of someone about this idea of, in fact, what Ernest really was about in his philosophy is what's known at least today, is idealism, which is the metaphysics that everything is in mind. Meaning that the reality that you're looking at is part of mind. It's not materialism. Now, how does that cross with science? Because, you know, the traditional way we look at science, it's all about figuring out what the hard stuff is in the world. And it goes down to what are the molecules. But as you get further into this, you get to the point at which most quantum physicists say we get into that spooky something, which is nothing. Because you cannot see an electron going around an atom. In fact, you can't see the atom. You can't see the nucleus. You can't see any of the particles. You can't see the quarks that make up the nucleus. When you try to look at it, you can't see it. You can see what it's doing. You can see the buzz, for example, if you've seen that picture of an atom, a hydrogen atom, and the electrons going around it. They buzz so quickly that you get this buzzy kind of picture and you can't tell what it is. And so it's actually nothing. Because as we get further down and we get into more and more particles, the particles that define, quote unquote, what these atomic structures are, quarks, bosons, hadrons, you name it, every time they come up with, okay, we found the last one, there's another one shows up. And then another one shows up, and another one shows up. And they keep going, well, we must have found the end somewhere in here. And by the time they get to a certain point, it's like, okay, there's really nothing there. Now, wait a minute. So materialism, which is all about this structural stuff, doesn't seem to correspond. The science of the material doesn't correspond to the quantum physics. And so they're at odds. But not in religion, not in spirituality. Because what is Zen all about? It's about the nothingness. What is the Hindu tradition of Advaita all about? It's that nothingness is who you are. And that means the essence of who you are is none of this. It's something much more. What's that something? That something is consciousness. Consciousness. Now that's what in science is called the hard problem. Because if you start from a place that the world, you come from your parents and you backtrack all the way down, it's all going to be coming from some kind of material in the universe. The Big Bang. The Big Bang goes like this and all these particles come out and all this stuff happens and it creates stars, and from the stars come all these different chemicals and reactions, and it's all within you. And so that then becomes the basis of, then when you're born with this material body and this brain, and when you're born with this body and brain, you believe that's who you are. And so when it comes to saying what consciousness is, they're like, we can't really define it. We can't really tell you what it is. In the sciences, that's a hard problem. It's not a hard problem in spirituality because we don't start from that end of the material world and build our theory that direction. We start from consciousness is all there is. And out of consciousness comes a universe. So out of this infinite comes something that's finite. And when the finite shows up, it shows up in the way of a universe, it shows up as a solar system, it shows up as you and I. Now, when we go from that perspective of there's consciousness and we're a finite version of that infinite, or as I like to say, it's the infinite who forgot himself, that power, that consciousness is your very life right now. That life acts through you. So in idealistic philosophy, we talk about everything as mental, but there's a misnomer there. It's a mental process. And the other night we watched a documentary, and in the documentary it was talking about the heart. And the heart is the center of knowing. and it feeds information directly through the vagus nerve into the brain. The brain processes that information according to your beliefs, your understandings, your prejudices. Whatever that is, it's coloring it, it's filtering it. It's why in religion when they say the revelations are that spiritual intuition. But the moment the intellect touches it, it becomes something else. Because oftentimes those revelations we don't understand, and we make up the understanding of what it is. I learned from my own experience with intuition over the years that when I first started, what would come to me, and I was doing a workshop like this, and what would come to me, I would go through my head and go, I just can't say that because it doesn't make any sense. How am I going to say that to this person? And so I would fight it. But then at the end, I would finally go, okay, I'm just going to let go, and I would say it. And they go, oh my God, how did you know? That's this process that we all have, this intuition that connects us directly into consciousness, directly into higher consciousness. And when we work from that place, instead of from this intellectual place, then the world works for us. When we're in our heads with all of this stuff, and I know about stuff because we're moving, that when you're in your head with all your stuff going on, is you are constantly at odds with what is. And when you're constantly in that state, you're suffering. Because you want it to be different. Oh, I don't want that house, I want this house. I want that person, I don't want that person. I want this to happen, I want that to happen. Well, it happened this way back when, and it's supposed to happen that way now, and it's not happening that way. And our mind just loves to play that game. Anybody had that experience? Yeah. I woke up this morning, and the very first thing I normally do is I start to watch my thoughts. So I can watch my thoughts and realize, okay, what's watching my thoughts? So that I don't get into the thoughts. This morning, immediately, I thought of something I was supposed to bring over to the apartment, and I went off on a tangent. Well, had I used a smaller box, had I put the box in the kitchen, had I put the box in the car when I got the box and I got the stuff and put it in the box, and I went, wait a second here. My mind has just taken a train to San Francisco, and I wanted to be in New York. That's the way the mind works. But what is, when you get in the present moment, what you're experiencing is the flow. And Ernest was classic in the idea of the flow. Get out of your own way, or as Emerson used to say, get your bloated nothingness out of the way. Now, there's nothingness. Emerson, by the way, was, I think, a congregational minister, but he had studied Hinduism. And a lot of what he brought in through his sayings was translated Hindu statements. But he had an experience of the transcendent, and from that place, a lot of his writing became illumined. Emerson was one of Ernest Holmes' great teachers. I think he said he was like 9 or 10 years old and he was reading Emerson. I said, at 9 or 10 years old, I wasn't sure I could even read. And he was reading stacks of books. So Ernest, when he passed, on his nightstand was a book written by Sri Aurobindo. And if any of you have ever seen it or tried to read it, it's over 1,500 pages. And it's all about the Hindu philosophy and civil rights, because Sri Aurobindo was a civil rights activist in India in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And he got thrown in prison because he was causing problems, just like Gandhi. He was causing problems for the establishment. And he's thrown in prison in solitary confinement for a year. Can you imagine in the late 1800s what that must have been like? So he decided this is the perfect time for me to sit and meditate. And he moved from anger and upset and crying about everything that was happening to everybody in the world and the suffering. He moved from there to, I accept everything as it is. And he had a transcendent experience. From that, he began to change the world. A lot of what's going on in the world comes out of the work that he was doing from that point on. Tesla is another one of my favorite to talk about because Tesla was great at this. As a kid, somehow he could connect into that space and he would get information. And then he would play with it. So, and he always talks about, well, I didn't really invent it, it came to me. They gave it to me. Of course, when I was into UFOs, I thought, wow, he's been in touch with them. But he was really saying somehow there's this information, this voice coming through, and if I follow it, actually it wasn't a voice for him, it was an image. He creates all these different things. I was just reading about probably around 1900, he said, I know what we're going to end up doing is we're going to create, using this kind of device, we're going to end up creating something that would send information from one device to another device to another device, all through the airwaves. He, not Marconi, was the first one to have a patent on radio frequency, which became broadcasting. He said, at some point, the information that's transferred is going to be in bits of information. What do we call the smallest piece of information on computer programming? A bit. So he would download this and came up with stunning amounts of, patents, just like Bucky Fuller and many, many other people, or Da Vinci. And so science and spirituality come together at some point when we understand that the mind that we have, the local mind that we have, doesn't know everything. It knows our experiences, and where did our experiences come from? They came from the fact that when we were a baby, we had vibrations in the household. And either those were harmonious for us or they weren't. And then a year or two later, we're having experiences of people around us, and it's either that vibration is harmonious or it's not. And if you're headed to school, and how many of us have been in classrooms where somebody says something nasty about you, or some group begins to fight, something happens, and pretty soon you're saying there's something wrong here, I must not be okay. Because the vibration I'm getting and the vibration that I feel for me is different. And so we feel different. And we go on to, high school and college feeling the same way, different and not sure why, what's going on, what's causing it. This vibration settles into us. I mentioned before that in India, the tradition is not to hug people, is to do namaste. Why is that? It's because the vibratory energy of one person entangles with the other person when you hug them, which we really like, yes? Why? Because it boosts our energy. But you're also entangling the atoms and the molecules of your body with somebody else's body. And so Einstein may have hugged somebody 100 years ago, and you have that vibration in you. You not only have star stuff, but you have the vibration of Einstein and Da Vinci and you name it. They're all there inside of you. So in this heart that we have beating inside of us is only one part of what the heart really is. This is a mechanical process, and it's an information distributor throughout the whole body. But right next to it is an area which is called the soul in most traditions. And it's a little cavity that's so small that it's often ignored. But in that place is the connection to the universe. Not here, not in your brain, but in your heart. And when the mystic says, allow your mind to sink into your heart, What they're saying is allow the thought process to subside in the silence and go deeper within yourself. And when you connect to that place which is the soul of who you are, it illumines everything, which is the other ancient reason for Diwali, is everybody has the light within them. And if everybody lights the light within them, it illuminates everything. So all of these different things come together, and I had a bunch of quotes that I really wanted to share with you, but it was 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I printed them, it came out in 2-point type. And because I didn't really look at it, I just put it in my stuff. I got here and I went, uh-oh. Moving is a really good metaphor of, you know, the mind. We have so much stuff in our minds and we keep moving it all around, and we want to change this in our head, and we change our thinking, and we get an experience that's correlating somewhat to our thinking process. And we play this kind of chess game in our mind to change the life out there so that we can be okay. And the moment that you do that, you get lost in the world. Because change in the world doesn't start out there, it starts in here. When it starts in the heart, that heart that I'm talking about, that mystical place next to the physical heart, everything begins to change inside. The mind begins to slow down, mind being all the thoughts that train through all the time. It slows down until it gets to a silence. In the silence is peace. In the silence is happiness. In the silence, it comes through to you what you need to do. You don't have to figure it all out. You couldn't figure it out. You could not ever figure it out if you tried to. How to do a single little thing. Why? And we think we do. So science comes back in here. We've done some experiments over the last 20 years, and what we've found is, using sophisticated electronic measuring devices, is that when you reached for that cup of coffee this morning, you said, oh, I really need a cup of coffee. And you reached for the coffee. Turns out the electrons and neurons in your brain already were thinking, move that arm before you had the thought, I want the coffee. They kept doing these experiments, and it kept showing over and over and over again. There was a small fraction of a second in which the action started before the thought began. Wow. Now that could be a mind blower, couldn't it? Then who's thinking to move, who's getting the coffee? Yeah. So here we're playing with this science, and we come to philosophy, and the philosophy of idealism is the metaphysics of matter being not material, but being mental process. Holmes says everything is in consciousness, and there's a consciousness which is, he called it a race consciousness, a human race consciousness, which is the lethargy that is at the same time pushing you and the world forward and pulling it back at the same time. And so we get pushed along by what everybody else is thinking from that consciousness, and it keeps pulling us back in other areas, which is typically the thoughts of you're not good enough, you shouldn't be doing that, whatever that, line of reasoning is, because the human race has had so much of that kind of negative thinking. If you want to know what's going on in the common consciousness, look at the world, and you can see. Why do we have such dramatic climate change going on? Because of the ego mind. Why do we have so much craziness in the political world? Because of the ego mind. Why do we have corporations that don't mind charging you more, even though they're making more profits than they were making before? Ego mind. So where's the problem? In the ego mind. Which then leads me back to ask the great masters, okay, if it's all one consciousness, how do I figure that there's the ego mind is wrong? How do I figure that the world shouldn't be the way it is? It should be different from the way it is. And they go, in your judgment, what if in the greater picture of things, it's working out exactly the way it's supposed to work out? It is what it is. And if we just accept what is, doesn't mean turning away from suffering, doesn't mean not being compassionate, doesn't mean not serving other people, because all of those things are part of your spiritual growth to come to your own enlightenment, as we would call it, your own connection with higher self. That power is within you. It's always been there. It can never be taken away. It's never born. It never dies. It's never injured. It never suffers. That's who you are. Not the mind, body, and all the stuff that's going on with it. Actually, it'll take care of itself. How do we know that? Because it always has. It always has. And I don't know what's supposed to be good for me or not good for me, but something knows. And that something will guide us and move us in the direction that we're supposed to go if we don't listen to the ego, but we listen to spirit, listen to intuition. You have it. It's just inside of you and it's veiled. It's like somebody put a little piece of cheesecloth over your soul and you forgot it's there. And take the cheesecloth off and you go, whoa, wow. Talk about a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So let me just say this, that I think that one of the things that Science of Mind has to offer the world is the fact that we can bring to every human being this idea that you're okay. No matter what's going on, you're okay. And we can help you understand that you're okay and how when you find that place within yourself, the world is going to change. Because what you see now, you won't see. And what you want to see, you will see, as Mary Jean was saying earlier. That's the power that you have. You can sit like Sri Aurobindo did for a year, or Ramana Maharshi in a cave for 7 years. He was there 7 years, no food, no water, nothing. In fact, his body had decayed to the point, if you see pictures of him, that he walks very funny and his skin and bones for the most part. And he said, I don't really care about the mind-body because everything I need to know, I already am, meaning the greater I am. And he said, but I'm here because I'm about serving. And I'm serving you with what I've discovered in my experience. That's what the great masters are helping us with, whether it's Jesus who came and said all the same things that all the other masters said. He came and brought the message of love. What other message really is there except love? That is consciousness itself. If you talk to the great masters and ask them what love is, they go, well, do you know what consciousness is? Yeah, that's love. Where do you experience that? In here. That's why the heart is the center of love. So, take a breath. You are what the world has been waiting for. So let go and let it be. Thank you. Namaste.
Okay, but they're working. Would the prosperity receivers please come forward? And I want to acknowledge that Christine Blinkham is back from Montana. Christine, stand up so we can say hi. Yay! Hi, Christine. Christine is really the director of the bookstore, and half a year she's here, and the other half a year she goes visits her other son in Montana, and I'm so glad. It's always good to have you back. Thank you for being here. So go into the bookstore and say hi to her. Actually, you know, I was thinking about Maddie and her and the fundraiser. You actually have to go in the bookstore because you have to pay for whatever you're ordering in front, because it just makes it easier. Anybody have ever done a fundraiser and you didn't get the money in front regretted it. So you pay in there, and then you'll be able to pick up your products. So whatever is your gift today, just give a new usher. Yay! Oh, I guess you're really excited, aren't you? Marcia put the word out. She needed new ushers, and there's Tracy. Yay! And it's not the beginning of service either, so you can always get here. You'll always be on time. I know it for ushering. Oh, you look so cute, too, all of you. So whatever is your gift, if it's going to go in Tracy's basket, double it so she can win. And but whatever you give, just give it from love. Really, that's all it's about. We all know that as you give, you receive, and we all know that if you breathe in and you never breathe out, you aren't here anymore. So this is part of the breathing in and breathing out. So I just bless you. I bless the gifts, and I know that you all prosper from that divine wealth of consciousness. And for this I give thanks. And so I let it be. And so it is. So we have another song by Leanne. And Leanne is also the director of, what's it called? Westport Playhouse. Did you know that? How many of you have been to the Westport Playhouse? It is amazing. What do they have on there now?
We're getting ready to open a Christmas show at Thanksgiving time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Great. That was such an amazing experience. So I also, one more announcement. Larry and I want to donate some of our potted plants and trees and roses to the center. And we need a truck, and we need strong men because Larry can't carry them. And some of our patio furniture. We want to build a patio out there and have some nice furniture so that we can connect out there also. If you're available at all this week, have a truck or have brawn, please talk to Larry. Thank you. And now Leanne.
Okay. Thank you. This is a Judy Collins song called Who Knows Where the Time Goes. Across the morning sky, all the birds are leaving. How can they know that it's time for them to go? Before the winter fire, we will still be dreaming. I do not count the time. And who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes? Sad, deserted shore, your fickle friends are leaving. But then you know that it was time to go, but I will still be here. I have no thought of leaving. I do not count the time, 'cause who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes? And I am not alone when my love is near me, and I know that this is so till it's time for me to go. So come the storms of winter, and then the birds in spring again. I do not fear the time. Who knows how my love grows? Who knows where the time goes? Yes, who knows where the time goes? Who knows? Who knows where the time goes?
That is so beautiful. Thank you. If you want to turn the lights down a little bit in the back, and Sherry Lease will move us into that sacred space of a cathedral of love. And all the prayer team, would you please come down in front and just move your heart and energy throughout this room. I want to remind you that you could come at 10:30 on Sunday morning, from 10:30 to 10:45 across the hall on the fireside. There's a meditation. It's really nice to come together and meditate for 15 minutes, so I invite you to do that. Just take a deep breath. If there's somebody in your life that you would like to put into this chamber of prayer, call out their name right now. Richard, Ann. And I'll call out your name, Mary Jane. For I know that right now we shift our consciousness to the wholeness of every name that we've mentioned. That we know that that one power, one presence, one consciousness of love and wholeness is right where they are. There is only the one breathing, moving, living from that wholeness of spirit. And I know for each one of us that whatever is needed in our life for us to awaken to the deeper love that we are is now present in our life. That we awaken to that love and possibilities and creativity. That we allow ourselves to be moved by that spirit within, guided, pushed, enveloped. That we let go of the outside world's turmoil and move to the inside world peace. As each one of us moves as peace, we recognize that divine is our very life. We change our life and we change the world. Giving thanks today for all the blessings that we have. I bless each one of us, knowing it truly is the divine in action. And for this I give thanks. And so I let it be. And as we say together, and so it is. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. We also have the November bulletin out in the lobby if you're interested to see what's coming up. Pick one up. And now with one more song. All right. Let's give Leanne a big hand.
Your part is to say over and over again at the right time. I'll try to prompt you at the end of the line. At the end of the line. Great. And actually, it's at the end of the line. I'll try to prompt you. I'll try to prompt you. Feel free to clap along, sing along. Some of you probably know this song, so. Well, it's all right, riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right, if you choose the life you please. Well, it's all right, doing the best you can. Well, it's all right, as long as you can lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring at the end of the line. You can wait for someone to tell you everything at the end of the line. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow may bring at the end of the maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's all right, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's all right, sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's all right, as long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's all right, every day is Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road a ways, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days at the end of the line. Maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays at the end of the line, Purple Haze. Well, it's all right, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's all right, if you got someone to love. Well, it's all right, everything will work out fine. Well, it's all right, we're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just happy to be here, happy to be alive. It don't matter if you're by my side, I'm satisfied. Well, it's all right, even if you're old and gray. Well, it's all right, you still have something to say. Well, it's all right, even if the sun don't shine. Well, it's all right, we're going to the end of the line.
Leanne Matthews, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That was so great. That was so great. So I want to invite you all again to come next Sunday and bring your friends, dress up in a costume. It's going to be my last Sunday for a while. I'm going to Egypt, and my intention is to come back a couple days before Thanksgiving. So I'll see you on Thanksgiving or next Sunday for celebrating Halloween. Have a wonderful week, and here's our closing affirmation. Let's stand up and say it together. Today I stand committed, and I'm not turning back. Not now, not ever.